Hello, everyone. This is KJ from Tech Tuesdays with KJ, and also the host of the Product Leaders Edge podcast. Welcome to our first YouTube Tech Tuesdays video, and thank you all so much for your support of Tech Tuesdays and the Product Leaders Edge podcast. Tech Tuesdays started originally in December 2024 on the LinkedIn platform, and Tech Tuesdays really grew from my iPhone notes. I always would screenshot things, write down different product ideas in my phone. And one day I just said, this can't live here anymore. It has to go out to the world. So we started on LinkedIn, December 2024 and had a great run throughout 2025. That helped me as a builder, content creator, if you will, to just build reps and consistency because honestly, the biggest moat and the cheat code in content creation is consistency. You cannot beat discipline. Smarts can't beat it. Someone who went to a top school can't beat it. I went to a top school and I still have to work on consistency. So that's just innate discipline, honestly. So consistency, let me fix my collar here. Consistency beats smarts in this builder economy because you can have all the degrees, you can have all of the fancy names on your resume, but if you are not consistent, nothing takes off. And life gets busy. Anyway, Tech Tuesday started 2024, 2025, we went on the LinkedIn platform. We were on the LinkedIn platform in 2024 too, but I really took it up a notch and posted short form video, weekly takes every week, and I built a newsletter around Tech Tuesdays as well, the Inside Solo Star newsletter on Substack. To subscribe to that, you can type Solo Star by kjgreen.substack.com, smash the subscribe button, and you'll be in the ecosystem. So that was built around Tech Tuesdays. And in the background, I was recording my podcast, the Product Leaders Edge podcast, in the background. And I would say, honestly, all of those reps warmed me up to come on YouTube because I've always wanted to enter YouTube. I just I didn't have a point of view at the time. And I was thinking maybe I should go the faceless profile route. I don't think that's for me per se. I can't do the faceless profile route. It's not for me. But we had a great run through 2025 and I launched the Product Leaders Edge podcast officially in February 2026. And the Product Leaders Edge podcast is on Apple, Spotify, also on YouTube and Overcast and Substack and iHeartRadio. Please listen. We just released our third episode. But back to Tech Tuesdays. And after getting warmed up from podcasting, I realized honestly, I could do a bit more video for Tech Tuesdays and we can expand on YouTube because YouTube is the number one discoverability platform in the world, even more than Google, the parent company. Well, Alphabet is a parent company, but even more than Google, the search engine that's been here forever. So going on YouTube requires discipline and a different set of consistency than what I've had before. I have been used to just writing posts every week. Now I will be more aligned with video. So I'm excited for you all to join this journey with me as I venture into video on YouTube. I'm excited though. I'm really, really, really excited. I honestly have wanted to get into content creation for years, and I thought like maybe I needed to do like a passion project and I don't know, maybe do it based off of what I'm learning in archery and all of my other passions and golf. But I realized like, why not just do it in the area? And I'm passionate in those areas, archery and golf, but I have mastery in product management, AI and cloud. And I'm now wanting to build a company off of my expertise. So why not just allow this to be my entry into content creation rather than forcing something because I can create content around archery and golf that all falls under this ecosystem, but I can't consistently build content on archery and golf. I'm passionate and it's a passion area, but like there's a cap on how much content you could do for that because I am still learning those areas too, but I feel more aligned with this area of product leadership, cloud, and AI. Anyway, so today we will talk about my journey thus far in studying for the AWS Solutions Architecture exam. Gosh, learning cloud is not easy. I'll just say that. Cloud, AI, these emerging technologies, people and experts, some experts make them sound easy on paper, but when you go to the infrastructure level, there's a lot more nuances that meets the eye. But to ground us in my opening thesis, and this is what I say on the Product Leaders Edge podcast too, but product leadership isn't about deciding what to build. It's about understanding how things are built and why certain decisions matter more than others. And as I mentioned lately, I've been studying for the AWS Solutions Architecture exam. And honestly, this is not a memorization exam. And in the education system, when I grew up in the early 2000s and in the late 90s, I memorized a lot of information and content to study for tests. And this is not that. The AWS Solutions Architecture exam requires pattern recognition, an understanding of the AWS frameworks, also just decision making within the realm of being a solutions architect, a different skill set. And a lot of the questions on this exam asks really just the same question, asks the same overarching question. AWS is pushing participants like myself who put ourselves through taking this exam. What is the simplest, most scalable, most effective solution under constraints? And I realized I did not plug in my mic. Let me plug in my mic right now. This is content creation in real time. You know, we are real people building real content and real people who forget to do things. So, real people, real content, real people who often forget to do things. But so glad you guys are on this journey with me as I continue to build my skill set in video production, content creation, all the things. Back to our main point. AWS is asking what is the simplest, most scalable, and most cost effective solution under constraints? Because this is the same question that organizations and enterprise are asking solutions architects, cloud engineers, product leadership. How can you design a product, a platform, architecture with the simplest, most scalable, and most cost effective solution under constraints? That's the main question today. And that means that you don't over engineer, you're not picking services randomly, and you're not defaulting to complexity. And when I say you're not picking services randomly, to really understand the cloud infrastructure and how modern technology is built today, there is the core four. And I talk about this within the podcast, but I'll explain it quickly today. So the core four is networking, storage, compute, and security. Core four. And that's how all modern technologies are designed in today's world. Because it's about thinking in systems, not just features. And we've moved away from the times when we were building apps for the very first time and building technology at large scale where we were thinking in the framework of features. But these days, you have to think more deeply on how a product, how architecture will be secured, what networking decisions will you make to ensure that this reaches a broad audience and doesn't fail under constraints. What compute will you use? Will it be serverless? Will it be a traditional server? So the first concept that I've been learning is storage. So storage is really about thinking in systems and not buckets. And before I started studying AWS, I thought about storage as where do I put data? When you think about storage, my mind immediately goes to my Google Cloud, where I store my Google Docs, but it's more than that. And now the question is how often is the data used And what does that imply for cost and performance? How often is the data used? And what does that imply for cost and performance? So there's different core concepts in regards to data temperature. So there's hot data, which is frequently assessed and needs speed. And then there's cold data, which is rarely assessed and optimized for cost. And really, the main storage product for AWS is S3. That's within the core four. And if you see static content, global users, high availability, that typically is AWS S3 plus CloudFront, which CloudFront is a caching feature that allows a website to cache, server website to cache information so that it can be broadly distributed. So if you view a website that's based in, and I'm butchering this, but if you view a website that's based in like, I don't know, let's say Russia, and what your server does, it will save that information on your server so that when you pull it up again, it's not like loading, it's not buffering when it's loading, it will load quickly. So S3 is durable, low cost storage, and CloudFront is distributed delivery, latency that's offered globally. And that's just the beginning of like true design. Now we have networking, which is a whole different ballgame. So networking is where things shift from connecting services to controlling how systems interact. So if we have a private subnet, if I'll give a quick scenario, but if a private subnet needs internet access, you don't expose it directly. You use what we call a NAT gateway. And this matters because there's a difference. There's the internet gateway, which gives public access to the broad internet. And then there's NAT gateway, which is outbound only access. And really, with this, is that you're controlling exposure instead of enabling connectivity throughout the entire architecture. Because at the end of the day, security is part of the infrastructure and it's not an afterthought. A third concept that I've been learning is monitoring, which monitoring is one of those concepts that requires more simplicity than complexity. AWS, what I've seen on this exam is that AWS consistently rewards solutions architects who think of the simplest solutions. If you can think of a simple solution and not over engineer, you will get that question correct every time. And it works the same in the real world too, because organizations want simplicity, not over engineering and not paying for services that honestly they don't need. Let's just be real. When we think about services like CloudWatch that monitors metrics, alarms, thresholds, and SNS notifications, the pattern is observe, detect, respond. And the trap here could become over engineering, adding unnecessary services and designing for edge cases too early. Edge cases come up all the time, but honestly, you just adjust as they come up. We don't engineer for edge cases just off the bat. We have to engineer for edge cases as they come up. Good systems just aren't powerful, they're clear and maintainable. And what's changing for me, honestly, if I'm being frank with you, my learning cloud has begun to rewire my entire brain, honestly. And I'm now thinking more in systems and architecture rather than just like product features, as I mentioned. And the shift that also seeing is I'm starting to think in trade-offs, constraints, and system behavior, not just features, not just outputs. That is the difference between building products and designing systems that actually scale. That's what we want. Systems that scale, not break. And what's interesting is that I'm not just studying AWS. I'm not. I am building a company. I'm building a company. I'm building a business from the ground up through content, through advisory services, and future investments in real estate and other factors. But launching Tech Tuesdays on YouTube is really a big leap for me because this will require more effort than what I've put in before. And not every piece of content will require a video. There's just some forms of content that are just better written than a video. and vice versa. And we're just in the day and time of building in public. Building in public requires being uncomfortable. Building in public requires having less than ideal lighting. Building in public requires not being overly polished. Building in public builds consistency. Building in public builds skills, and it gives real time market feedback and trust. And sometimes there's a tension with that because oftentimes, depending on the audience, some folks expect a polished product right away. But honestly, who's the judge? No one. The only judge is you. And that's what I have to keep telling myself. And that's why I keep just being consistent because that's my superpower. That's my cheat code. I've heard people say the cheat code is a job or the cheat code is getting a big logo on your resume. But we're all seeing that that's shifting with this current economy and layoffs. And honestly, what everyone is falling back on is their skills and their passions because we're all realizing that companies don't provide the innate value that we thought that they did and that we thought that what we thought that we were told. But that's a whole different topic. I don't want to take us down a rabbit hole. Thank you all so much for listening to the first episode of Tech Tuesdays with KJ on YouTube. I'm so excited to continue to bring you quality YouTube content. I will continue this series on what I'm learning in as I study for the AWS Solutions Architecture exam because honestly, this exam has taken over my entire life, if I'm being quite honestly. But I've been learning so much, and this is really just the beginning of the journey. And I'm excited for you to come along with me. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you next week.